Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd just like to talk to you about 3D room tags and why you'd use them. In 2D, it's great. You can just tag rooms, and inside the rooms themselves, as the object, there's an awful lot of information, such as area, perimeter, and a lot of other things. You can also put your finishes through. You can make a whole load of other share parameters and start punching a lot of other things onto those, which is quite interesting. So that's something that is useful. But when you actually come to do a 3D view, it's just a whole lot of spaces. It doesn't really tell you anything about it. There's a nice little app called Case Apps, which are free apps, and they have a 3D room tag. So here it's just going to go through, and it asks for it finds the room numbers, the room names, and the department, and then it creates a 3D text object inside there. Now the original one is actually a cube, like a dice, and it actually has text on 4 faces and on the top as well. I don't particularly like it, and I've taken the 4 faces off, and I just have the top one. With that one, you've got the 3 parameters, which actually have to be on the generic model, and you also have to have the family inside the generic model category. It's now just going to go through and do it. This is why I actually do them, because you can actually go through and you can actually create a 3D PDF, so that you've got a ground floor plan and you've got a first floor plan or whatever you've got inside your 3D model, and you can go through and view them, and you can get information about particular rooms on things. Also, the other thing that you can do is, if you touch that object there, I can actually give information. So we've got the floor areas, perimeters, all of that. I've got information about the finishes inside the rooms and stuff like that I can push out to a 3D PDF, which I can then further push out if I export as a CSV the whole tree. And I'm just going to call it Untitled here and save it through to that. There's one already there. We're going to blow that off. And if I come into Excel and I just go back to that macro sheet and I just delete all of the imports. If I do an import the CSV file and I just go and find that file there, we can import it. And you see we've transferred a lot of the parameters across from Revit into Excel through the 3D PDF. So the 3D PDF is something that you can carry around or pass around to use for people. And here we've got 7,772 lines of data. A lot of it's not particularly useful and rather confusing. So what I do is I've actually made a macro that can actually filter that stuff out and start throwing it into a structure. So it's taken the room information through and just brought it out quite nicely. Now it does that for rooms because all the rooms have exactly the same parameters. Now if I just filter for something like doors, because each door family is similar, its structure is going to be slightly different. So you find it is not as elegant as what the room data is. But again, you can push that information out to there. So I think that's going to create another one called Room 8. There we are. So if I just go back into there, if I just take all of my room data and I filter that out, and I go from the smallest to the largest, and then I filter out by block code or whatever it is through here, you'll see that I can actually just go give me the sum of all of the stuff of the total floor area inside unit 1. And there I've got my total floor area. So it's quite easy to go through and manipulate that information through there. So what I've been trying to do is actually take that information through and generate it. So what I'm using is these 3D icons which come in, and the way that the Case app works is it comes in, it's created the 9 apps, the 9 icons, and it's placed them onto there. And now what I'm going to actually need to do is, you'll see that those families there have come in under the generic model. So that's where they are there. But now the problem is you're going to have a lot of objects which might already be on the generic model category already. So you don't actually want to schedule some rooms and some things. You'd have to do a whole lot of filtering. So what I end up doing is that I actually move those across. So I actually just go and take that room tag, go and edit the family. I change it from generic category and move it to the nurse call device. And the reason why I move it to the nurse call device is because you don't really use that, so it's a sort of a dud one. So I've taken it from the generic one and I moved it to nurse call. I haven't saved this back to the original, I've just changed that parameter inside here. And now when I load it into the project, and I load it into that project there, you'll see that it's now moved across to the nurse call device. Now, one of the nice things with this now is that within those generic those objects through there, it's just thinking about it, here it comes. So from the first of all, you can actually just have those room names inside Revit, so that if you're using the 3D objects or 3D spaces, you can give a lot more information around them. So if you're doing things like room data sheets or something like that, it's nice to actually have the object of the room name sitting in there that's clear, although you have it on the rest of your sheet. So when we've actually got that, so if we actually just go and look at that, the schedule, so I then create two schedules. I create one for where's my schedules gone, one for the room schedule and one for the nurse call device. Now, a nice thing with the nurse call device is that you can, it's not the nurse call device, what you can actually do is inside the fields you can also get stuff from rooms, but you can only get some. Now look at that, that's come across there, brilliant. So we can get the area coming across here. So if we just go OK and see what comes through. So the areas are coming through. Now you see here I actually haven't got quite the same numbers. I haven't got room 1 in there. Now one of the reasons for that is if I just go into my 3D and I just go onto my top, you'll see I've got a couple of objects. Sorry, I've got to zoom out from here. This one's half sitting in and half sitting out. And then there's a hot water cylinder one that's actually sitting over inside there, and that one for the general toilet goes through there. So if I now go into the nurse call device one through there, you'll see that I've now got all of the rooms and they're all filled in, and I've actually passed across the room ones. Now what I actually tend to do is that you can use a couple of ones, although I find it temporary. BIM1 are the people who actually give you these free case apps, and they also do Color Splasher, which is a brilliant tool, and also the export import to Excel. And the one that I use is the RTF tool, Rushforth Tools, which I think is a brilliant tool. But it's you've got to pay for that one, so look up, but it's well worth it. So for this one here, I can export those schedules, a Revit schedule, I can find the room schedule, and I can export that through there. I've already done that, so I've got them down here, and here's the one for the room schedule, and here's the one for the nurse call, and I can transfer information across between some of them. So I can actually take some information and I can take it from one and put it onto another one. But if you've got share parameters which you've actually mapped to both the nurse call devices, or that's the one that I choose, and the room schedule, hopefully it'll map straight away so you can actually extract the theme blobs and you don't need to come out and do this sort of thing through there. So I find that's a good way to actually transfer the stuff out. And then I use add-ins. I use SimLab PDF exporter to actually use my exporter. My Excel macro is based on this exporter. If you've got a Bluebeam exporter or something like that for 3D PDF, they structure their data in a different way, and so you actually have to rewrite that macro to do that. So just getting the 3D information through there. The two other things I just wanted to point out. The two places you can get the apps, you can go into the BIM1 and you can download. It's available with the add-in manager. I found that one didn't work because it didn't actually have the 3D block that it needed, and I went to the GitHub, and John Pearson seems to have a thing. These are both down in the links below for my information. I hope this has been of interest for you. If it is, can you please give it a thumbs up, and thank you very much for watching.